Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Chandra Lala Girivardhari. Gopi Chandra Lala Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanayana. Jasodanandana Brajajanayana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govardhana Krishna Balama Virat Shri Shri Gonitai Ki. Shri Govardhana Puja Ki. Gaura Prema. Today we're celebrating a very special, famous festival of Krishna lifting Govardhana Hill to protect his dear devotees in Vrindavan. Yes. This festival has been celebrated for many, many years, actually, thousands of years. In Vrindavan, huge quantities of foodstuff is offered to Govardhana, and thousands of people gather together. They dress up in their traditional brightly colored clothes and they walk around Govardhana, circumambulate Govardhana. About 23 kilometers. It takes about 5 to 6 hours to walk around Govardhana. So it's and of course Govardhana is situated about, I think it's about 21 kilometers from the center of Vrindavan. So it's in, I think that's, is it Uttar Pradesh? I think it's so that place, yes. So in the Garga Samhita, we find descriptions of Govardhana appearing here on the earth planet. It's described that also descriptions of Govardhana appearing in Goloka Vrindavan. It is said that, once in Goloka Vrindavan, Radharani, she asked Krishna, please manifest a special sweet place near the Yamuna where we can enjoy the rasa dance. So Krishna said, so be it, and began meditating. It is said he looked deep within his heart, and from there his love rose up and fell on the ground and grew into this large mountain, huge mountain, Govardhana. complete with caves and beautiful trees, fast-flowing streams, singing birds, flowering vines. Very beautiful place. And that mountain, it just then expanded. It expanded like inconceivably. It is said that it became 1,200,000 kilometers wide. 12 billion kilometers long. 100 million kilometers tall. How is that possible? Of course, you know, in comparison to the Earth, the Garuda Govinda is a very big planet. Actually, it is said that the Garuda Govinda is as big as this whole material universe. And it's I think I read, yes, in the Sadapuda's book that in the Vedic cosmology, you know, if you travel from the center of this universe to the outer circumference, I think if you travel at the speed of light, which is, I think, is 186,000 kilometers per second for 1,500 years, you'll get from the center to the outer circumference. So it's a big universe. It's a big universe. So the planet Garuda Govinda, it's huge, you know. So actually, the Govardhana expanded so fast that the inhabitants of Gokula, they became fearful. Therefore, Krishna, it is said that Krishna, he slapped Govardhana. He slapped him and chastised him, saying, "Why are you expanding so much? You're covering everything. Stop." So Govardhana stopped expanding. And, you know, looking at this beautiful mountain Govardhana, Radharani was very pleased. And she and her beloved Krishna had beautiful pastimes there. We read there's so many beautiful pastimes of Radharani and Krishna, and also the cowherd boys and Krishna herding the cows around Govardhana and playing their different games and sports. Then what happened is when Krishna was about to manifest his transcendental pastimes on the earth, he told Radharani, "You must come with me to the earth. We can continue our pastimes there." And Radharani, she said, "But how can I come, even if you're there? How can I be happy in a place where there's no Vrindavan forest, no Yamuna river, no Govardhana hill? I'll only come if they come with us." Therefore, Krishna, when he came down to the earth, we know, he brought his whole spiritual world with him, you know, including Govardhana hill, Yamuna river, all down to the earth, all the forests of Vrindavan. So Govardhana initially appeared on one of the 7 islands. You know, in the Vedic cosmology, they call planets islands. So he appeared on one of these islands that make up Bhumandala. It's called Salmali Dvipa, where he took birth from the wife of Dronachala, who is said to be the leaders of the great mountains of the universe. Yes. So though we hear that in Goloka, Govardhana was manifest in this gigantic form, here on earth, he became much smaller, reduced in size. And 96 kilometers long, 60 kilometers wide, 24 kilometers tall when he first appeared on the earth. So when Govardhana appeared here on the earth, all the important mountains headed by the Himalayas, Sumeru, they came, they bowed down to him. Then they circumambulated him. Then offered beautiful prayers, just glorifying him as the personal mountain of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the King of mountains. And one day, there was this great sage, this great mystic yogi. He was on pilgrimage, and he happened to see Govardhana. And Govardhana was looking so splendid and radiant with beautiful foliage, fruit trees, singing birds, flowing streams, beautiful gardens of flowers. And he was so attracted to Govardhana. Therefore, he desired to take Govardhana with him to Kashi on the banks of the Ganges, so he could reside on Govardhana and perform his austerities and his bhajan. So after getting permission from Govardhana's father, he picked up Govardhana using his mystic power, and he began carrying Govardhana through the sky to the earth. But before leaving Govardhana, Govardhana made him promise that wherever you put me down, I will stay there in that place. So the mystic sage, he agreed. Then as they were flying through the sky, as they were passing over Vrindavan, Govardhana's mind became flooded with beautiful memories of his previous existence in Goloka. And he suddenly realized that Radha and Krishna would soon take their birth there, in that land of Vrindavan. So he made himself so extremely heavy, the sage was forced to put him down. Then Govardhana reminded that sage that remember our promise, that wherever you put me down, that's where I'm going to stay. So Govardhana informed him he wasn't going to Kashi, he would remain here in Vrindavan. You know, that sage, he became very angry. As I said, his lips began trembling in anger, and he shouted out, "You arrogant mountain, you're not fulfilling my desires. I curse you. From this day on, you will shrink by the size of a sesame seed every day." That was a curse on Govardhana. Thus, after as many, many years passed by, Govardhana has shrunk from a 24-kilometer high mountain to a hill, just a small hill. So today we're celebrating one of the most famous pastimes of Krishna, is when he lifted Govardhana hill, and it's full of fascinating details. You know, the story begins with Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj, and the cowherd men. They're preparing this elaborate yajna to please Lord Indra. They wanted to show their appreciation because Lord Indra is supplying the rain, which is so important for agriculture and feeding their cows. So although Krishna, he knows everything, he acted just like an innocent boy and curious about what his elders are doing. Therefore, he inquired humbly from his father, "My dear father, it seems that you are preparing this grand ceremony. What is it meant to accomplish? From whom is it meant for? How is it going to be performed? Is it in accordance with Vedic injunctions? Or is it just a popular ceremony? Please explain, I must know." So Krishna, he was demanding a serious answer. So Nanda Maharaj explained how it has been our family tradition to show gratitude to Lord Indra, who is supplying the rain. Since we are cow-herding people, you know, we need rain, so the grass will grow so we can nicely feed our cows. Yes. So then we know Krishna, he began to tease his relatives by speaking all kinds of philosophies and ideas. Then he concluded by pointing out that the residents of Vrindavan should recognize their relationship with Govardhana Hill and Vrindavan forests. Krishna went on to make a radical proposal and suggested that Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men should perform a yajna for the pleasure of the cows, brahmanas and Govardhana Hill, not Indra. Yes. So Krishna, he began pleading with his father and the cowherd men. And because they loved Krishna so much, more than anything, out of intense affection for him, they agreed to do exactly what he wanted. So we know that Krishna's intention was not just to insult a demigod, Lord Indra, but rather he wanted to knock down this great mountain of pride that had arisen in his tiny servant Indra. Now, although Indra was a devotee, not a demon, he had become so puffed up with his position as the king of heaven, and he foolishly began to think that he himself was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this pastime, Krishna is teaching us a good lesson. You know, he doesn't like to see his devotees become falsely proud. He mercifully accepts everyone's service, but he doesn't like one devotee thinking himself better than others. Also, another lesson, there's many lessons that Krishna teaches us in this pastime. Another lesson was he wants to teach us that Vaishnava devotees, they don't have to perform these ritualistic functions of the Vedas, nor is a devotee required to worship demigods. You know, for one who is fully practicing Krishna consciousness and is perfectly engaged in the Lord's loving devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, they've already fulfilled all the Vedic injunctions. They're free from all obligations. So in order to stop all such acts by his devotees, Krishna wanted to establish the exclusiveness of pure devotional service during his presence here on the earth. Of course, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men, they then inquired from Krishna how he wanted the yajna to be performed. So Krishna instructed them to prepare a big feast, to prepare rice and dal and halva and pakoras and puris, all kinds of milk products like sweet rice and sweet balls, laddus, sandash, rasagullas, and invite all the learned brahmanas who can chant the Vedic mantras and perform the 5 yajnas. A very great, pompous event. Then Krishna instructed them, give charity to the brahmanas, decorate and feed the cows, also feed all the inhabitants of Vrindavan sumptuously with Mahaprashadam. Krishna then instructed them that after everyone has eaten to their full satisfaction, you should dress and decorate yourself very nicely, smear sandalwood paste on your body, then circumambulate the cows, the brahmanas, the sacrificial fire, and of course, Govardhana Hill. So Nanda Maharaj and all the Rajvasis, they followed Krishna's instructions. It was a very nice festival. Beautiful festival. And this is another reason why Krishna performed this wonderful pastime. He wanted to inaugurate this yearly Govardhana festival for all time to come. So we see that for thousands of years this festival has been going on in Vrindavan, and now all by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, this festival is going on in all over the world, in all our different temples. So when everything was complete and offerings had been made, Krishna suddenly expanded himself as this great transcendental form and began eating all the offerings. So Krishna, although he expanded himself into this huge form, he also was appearing at that time simultaneously in his normal form of a cowherd boy amongst the festival goers of Vrindavan. So after eating all the offerings in this gigantic form of Govardhan, he declared to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan that he himself was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So he wanted to teach them that Govardhana Hill and he himself, Krishna, are non-different. Because some people may think, how is that possible? One may ask, how is it possible that Krishna can take on forms such as that of Govardhana Hill, or forms made of wood, metal, stone, etc., like the deity in the temple? How is it possible? The Christian. So we should first understand how Krishna, he's the supreme controller. He's controlling both spiritual and material energies. And therefore, he can easily convert his different potencies according to his will. This means he can convert material energy into spiritual energy, which means he can choose to appear in this material world in forms made of material elements. Just like he appeared in the form of Govardhana, he appears in the form of the deities in the temple. He can appear in these forms and accept our service. Yes. Therefore, he mercifully appears in the material world in such forms. You know, as a deity in the temple, Govardhana here, Lord Giriraj, Shalagram Shilas, to accept our service. He can do this because he's the supreme controller. And because he's the supreme personality of Godhead, who can restrict him in coming in whatever form he likes? You know, then of course the story goes, when Lord Indra understood that his yajna had been put aside out of foolish pride, he became furious. He cried out, "Just see the impudence of these inhabitants of Vrindavan, daring to defy the demigods, neglecting my supreme authority. And who does this Krishna think he is, telling these cowherd men to stop my yajna? He is nothing but a foolish, over-talkative child. These inhabitants of Vrindavan must be severely punished." As the enraged Indra, he summoned his most devastating cloud, and soon there was blazing lightning, roaring thunder, huge hailstorm. It said the raindrops were as big as the trunks of elephants, began inundating Vrindavan. So everyone was very frightened. And they came running to Krishna saying, "Oh Krishna, please save us from this devastating storm which is going to entirely flood Vrindavan." So Krishna, who's always taken a vow to protect his devotees, all of a sudden, by his mystic power, what happened? Is the rain stopped. Why did it stop? Because Krishna, he didn't want to get his turban and his garment wet. Then he ran from his house and immediately picked up Govardhana Hill with his left hand. He held it on his little finger. Then the rain started pouring again. And then Krishna was calling out, "Oh inhabitants of Vrindavan, please take shelter under the umbrella of this Govardhana Hill. I have just lifted it." You know, everyone was very astonished. You know, these Vrajvasis, they don't know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the spell of his Yogamaya potency, he keeps them in illusion. They cannot understand that he is the Supreme Lord. They just think he's one of them. And therefore they simply treat him as a playmate, a friend, a helpless child, a handsome boyfriend, in complete familiarity. And of course, this gives Krishna the greatest pleasure. It gives him the greatest enjoyment. It delights him to associate with his pure devotees in this way, in complete familiarity. You know, although he is the Supreme Lord himself, here in Vraj, he simply wants to be loved as a darling little cowherd boy of Nanda and Yasoda. Just like any other darling little boy, he wants to be loved. Yeah. So although in Goloka Vrindavan he doesn't play as God where people worship him with awe and reverence, at times he proves that he is the Supreme Lord by performing these superhuman feats, like lifting Govardhana, this huge mountain. However, he makes the Vrajvasis think that he's just all doing these wonderful pastimes by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Because Krishna doesn't want to be worshipped in Braj with this pompous adoration mood. And even if he proves that he is the Supreme Lord, they don't care to know about it. Just like it is said that after Krishna had put down Govardhana, the cowherd men got together and they started talking, and they said, Krishna does amazing things. Like he kills all these big demons, he swallows the forest fires, he's lifted this huge mountain on his little finger. Then they started thinking, maybe he is God. Maybe he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then they thought, no, he can't be. Because we know that Krishna, he steals butter. He tells lies. He talks aimlessly like a little talkative child. He can't be the Supreme Lord. Even though he proves that he's God, and they start thinking that maybe he is, Krishna doesn't let them understand. They're so attached to just associating with Krishna in complete familiarity as their helpless child, as their dearmost friend, as their handsome boy. They don't want to know about that. So soon after Krishna lifted this Govardhana hill, all the men, the women, the children, the cows, the forest animals, the birds, they all came under Govardhana for shelter. You may think that, if we lifted Govardhana hill here, underneath Govardhana would just be all these roots and bits of dirt and clay, and, it wouldn't be a very nice situation. However, when Krishna lifted Govardhana, under that hill was this amazing valley, lit up by self-effulgent jewels. The floors were embedded with touchstone, luxuriant fields of rich barley grass for the happy cows. There were beautiful lakes and crystal clear water and gardens of fragrant flowers. It was like, just under this Govardhana, there was just this amazing place. So everyone happily remained under that Govardhana hill for 7 days. And during that time, it is said that everyone just became totally absorbed in drinking the nectar of Krishna's beauty and sweetness. And even though there was, actually it's amazing, because even though there was thousands and thousands of living entities under that hill taking shelter, by Krishna's mystic power, everyone felt that Krishna was personally looking at them during that time and directly and very intimately associating with them. Yes, so for 7 days they were just totally absorbed in drinking this nectar of Krishna's beauty and sweetness. And it is said that, every feature of Krishna's transcendental form is likened to a tidal wave of luscious splendor that just inundates the senses of his devotees and just drenches their hearts with unlimited satisfaction. So this is another reason why Krishna performed this Govardhana Leela, because he simply wanted to enjoy this very personal, loving reciprocation with his pure devotees continuously for 7 days under this hill of Govardhana. Meanwhile, this fierce cloud who was trying to devastate Vrindavan under Indra's order completely failed, because by Krishna's mystic potency, as soon as the water hit the ground, it completely dried up. Yes, so there was no inundation. And when angry Indra returned to witness the devastation, he was completely surprised to see how the flooding had actually, when he came to see how the flooding had actually occurred, he noticed that Vrindavan and Govardhana Hill were just glistening effulgently. And he was especially surprised to see how this little boy Krishna was holding up this huge mountain, Govardhana Hill, on his little finger of his left hand. He was completely baffled. Immediately instructed that crowd to stop raining. And after that, Krishna soon instructed the Rajavasis that it was safe to return home. Yes. Then Krishna gently lifted Govardhana Hill down, and everyone was so grateful to Krishna. Some came and embraced him. Some showered him with benedictions. All the demigods from heaven were showering flowers and sounding conch shells and drums. So meanwhile, Indra, Lord Indra, fully understood Krishna's supreme position. He felt extremely humbled. He'd been pulled down from his great mountain of pride. And he could understand the extent of his offenses. So what did he do? He, in a grief-stricken mood, he approached Krishna in a solitary place. He bowed down. He placed his head on Krishna's lotus feet. Then he presented himself as the greatest of all fools. And he begged for forgiveness. And he offered very nice prayers in glorification of Krishna. So although Govardhana is a direct incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he's also been celebrated as the greatest devotee of Krishna because he serves Krishna and his friends in so many ways. He supplies fragrant, cool water to drink and wash Krishna's hands. Tasty beverages such as mango and honey juices. He also provides sweet grasses to feed Krishna's cows. He also supplies many caves where Krishna and Balaram and their friends, they play, they sit, they lie down, they perform their different pastimes. Govardhana also supplies beautiful flowers, also sweet fruits and vegetables for eating, amazing jewels, mineral dyes, jeweled thrones, couches and seats and forests where Krishna enjoys his nectarine pastimes. In this way, Govardhana is serving Krishna in so many ways. So although Govardhana plays many roles in the pastimes of Krishna, he is, in a sense, Krishna's friend, protector, playland, and he always looks after all of Krishna's needs, it is said. And he witnesses Krishna's most intimate conjugal pastimes. And every blade of grass, every stream, tree, creeper and flower on Govardhana and around Govardhana, who are all fully conscious entities being in the spiritual world, they witness Krishna's unlimited pastimes. So Govardhana, very special place. So although serving in many capacities as the greatest devotee of Krishna, Sri Giri Govardhana is also a direct incarnation of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. He is one of, it is said, that Krishna's servitor Godheads, just like we see even Balaram and so many great personalities, the coming in Chaitanya Leela, like Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda. They have this mood of servitude because they recognize that Krishna is the original fountainhead of all incarnations. He is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, because Govardhana is a direct incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he possesses a tremendous and unlimited capacity to bless us devotees and award us Krishna Prem, pure love for Krishna. Therefore, we should all pray to Garuda Govinda to help us increase our attachment to his most worshipable object of adoration, the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Shri Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So I think the festival starts at 2 o'clock today, 2 p.m. Okay, so everyone can come here for the festival and walk around Govardhan. You know, there's a special benediction about walking around Govardhan that Krishna's that if you walk around Govardhan, you won't get bitten by any snakes. You know, there's a lot of snakes around Govardhan here, right here in Govardhan on planet Earth. There's just a brown snake at the back of my room the other night, you know. It's like, and so it's a good idea to walk around Govardhan. I can tell you a little story about the snake catcher, back to George. Everyone knows back to George, right? The snake catcher. So he didn't believe in this thing. He thought it's just mythology. I'm not going to walk around Govardhan. But I think it was Padma Mataji. She picked him up and she dragged him around Govardhan. She said, "You got to come around Govardhan." Was that? Remember that? Yeah, she walked around. Anyhow, it might have been someone else. But yeah, he didn't want to go. You know, he didn't believe it, this thing, you know. So just after that, it was just like a week after. You know, he catches all these big snakes. He's the snake catcher. People call him up from all over the place. And in the back of his car, he has these big aquariums where he puts all the snakes. If you look in the back of his car, you'll see there's red-bellied black snakes and brown snakes and all sorts of snakes. You know, very dangerous snakes. So he goes out to the forest and he lets them go. He doesn't kill them. So this is just after he walked around Govardhan. He went out there to let the snakes go. But then some people came to that place. It's a remote place out in the forest here. And he thought, I'll just wait. I'll wait till these people go, and then I'll let the snakes go. But he didn't. But then he was sitting on the back of his van. Then he felt this tapping on his ear, like. Then the tapping on his shoulder, like this, and his other shoulder. And then he realized that he hadn't put the lid back on properly, and all the snakes, these very dangerous snakes. I mean, if you get bitten by these snakes, you have like 3 minutes to live. They started coming out, and they were crawling over him like this, you know. And then he started remembering that, well, I walked around Govardhan. Krishna's going to protect me. It was just a little pastime, you know. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Go Premanand.